Okay, welcome back to another hour of Scotch Hour. I'm Noah.
I'm Jesse.
And I'm Brian.
All right, Jesse. So we got two 18-year scotches left over from our 3, 2, 1, I guess. I'm not sure how we're really doing it because we were supposed to have another third one here, but I chickened out.
It's all good. It's all good. Last week, we had the Oban 18, and it was amazing. If I was to put it in my list, it's definitely in my top 2 currently.
I thought it was great. How about you, Brian?
I enjoyed it also. Yeah, it was nice to kind of open my mind up to a different palate than the Isla scotches. It was very good.
Absolutely.
You had your mind stuck on Isla.
Yeah, for a while I did. Yeah.
All right. Well, last week, we rolled the game and we flipped the coin. This week, we've got 2 to choose from. We do have the Glenmorangie 18 and the Aberlour 18. And who's going to flip the coin this week to decide which one of these bad boys we open?
I get to flip it because it's the two
It's
18
between
year
the two of us, yeah. So
all right.
I'll go with, I'm a butt man. I'll go with tails.
Tails?
Yeah, I'm an ass man.
It is heads.
All right.
man.
Well, let's just pass this one down. Now you guys definitely can't have it next week since it's mine.
Dude, we told you that's the penance.
That's the penance.
We're going to miss you so much.
Oh, Brian, this is such a great scotch.
I'm going to have to make sure that
What a-
Jesse's passed out after the end of the
What a
the
wonderful
episode again. and
18-year-old Scotch.
I'll sneak this away.
All right, so here with the Glenmorangie 18 Highland Scotch. Nice display presentation here. This one we did pick up at Total Wine for the $120 price point. Pop open the box, pull out the Scotch.
You noticed last week it was 120. This week it's 120.
Yeah, this has become a very expensive hobby. All right.
It has.
I've been telling you that since I joined. I was like,
All right.
wow.
Well, does anyone want to go over the history of the Glenmorangie 18?
This was the one you had picked out initially. So,
That's right.
Jesse,
So-
why don't you do the honors?
43% alcohol by volume, which has been the case for the 18 years we picked. And last week's was great, so we're hoping this has got some stiff competition with the Oban. Thankfully, we've had a week to cleanse our palate of that. So with this one, it is aged in American oak casks for 15 years. Then they take a portion of it. That portion they put in the Oloroso casks, the sherry casks, for 3 years. And then after the 18 years have passed, they take the 2 back from the original cask and reunite them, if you will, into this extremely rare 18-year-old.
Reunited.
It feels so good.
And delicious. So, all right. Well, I am going to pop this bad boy open.
Pop it.
Pop it, pop it.
Fire it up. Fire it up.
Is that that's from The Crow?
Yeah.
That is a great
Yes.
80s movie.
It's amazing the stuff that's locked in my
I think
brain.
it's
that I shouldn't
90s
know.
maybe. It might be early 90s, late 80s.
Brandon Lee,
Brandon Lee.
his last movie.
Yes.
Well, he didn't even get to
From
finish it.
No,
that was Detroit that we're in.
yes, that's right. Which we'll be talking about later on tonight.
Yes.
with
All
our
right.
Smarter Challenge.
Smarter challenges.
It's a Smarter Challenge. That's mine. It's Sean Connery. Smarter Challenge.
Here, Sean, here is your 18-year
Thank you.
Glenmorangie
Thank you.
Scotch.
Thank you. Mr.
So,
Jesse
you
Rose.
won't even be here for next week's.
No, I'm going to miss it. Yeah.
No.
But I'm excited for it. I'll be excited to listen to it. Actually, I probably won't get to. Yeah, I'll get to hear it. I can listen to it on my.
You can still do
Under my
some
drive.
research.
I can do a little research. Yeah.
And then,
All right.
and then when you come back,
You know,
Cork
one thing
doesn't squeak.
I.
No matter how hard try, it won't squeak for me.
Yeah, I did miss the squeaking of the cork popping out.
it's
I put
okay.
the
Brian,
cork-
Brian wouldn't notice
I
anyways.
put
I wouldn't
the
even know
cork
if there's a
back
cork
in,
in it.
so this time you can find it.
Okay, good to know. You know, one of the things I read as I was researching this is it did receive the 2020 silver medal in some level of like Scotch competition. I don't know, but through San Francisco and New York.
Seemed like it went on like a lot of medals in San Francisco.
What are you saying?
I'm saying people from San
San
Francisco.
Francisco like it.
It's going to be salty? The ocean. So, oh man,
that
that's got a
smells
good
good.
nose.
I think it has kind of like a butterscotch type of look to it. It's not like super dark like the last one was. I think the other one was a little bit darker.
Maybe. This is still pretty dark. It's still pretty
got-
amber. It's on the amber side of gold.
Yeah, absolutely. It's got a sweeter nose, and I'm not going to drink it until after I say, "Hey, cheers, guy."
Hold
Cheers.
on. We haven't all had a chance to describe the nose
keep
yet.
describing it. Keep describing it. I just wanted to make sure I didn't drink it.
Keep an eye on Jesse.
Like last time?
Yeah.
Hey, last time I couldn't resist.
It's hard to describe. Initially, when I first smelled, I thought I smelled it like a hint of smoke.
I am getting a hint of smoke, but I'm also getting a floral note.
I'm getting way more floral. I'm not getting almost any smoke at all.
I'm getting.
I don't get any smoke.
I'm getting a hint of that smoke. I got smoke on the mind. I'm always off though. You and I have different.
You got to remember that about Brian. He is not a head guy. He is a tail guy.
Yeah, but man,
I do get like floral with like slight citrus.
All right, we diving in, gentlemen.
I think I'm getting the just because you said butterscotch, I'm getting a little bit of a butterscotch scent.
Now I get the
Honey toffee.
I don't get toffee, but I do get the honey.
I get the honey.
And then
On the tail end.
On the tail end, that's where I'm getting the oak on the tail end.
Mm-hmm.
I think I might have got honey through the mid, and then getting
I would say almost like for me, okay, honey. You said
honey in the mid, and then oak in the.
I'm getting like maybe nectarine in the front, with honey in the mid, and then oak in the back. Probably more like the Oloroso.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely is smooth and creamy to me, and for me, it's just a hint of orange right at the beginning. Then for me, it transitions more to a toffee flavor. And I'm thinking like Heath toffee bars, a little bit of chocolate without the chocolate. So just a little bit of toffee. And then it finishes nice and long with that oak. And I love a good oak in wine.
He likes wood.
Yeah, I love wood. In wine, in scotch. For me, this is pretty good.
What would a Scotch Hour be without a little bit of lowbrow humor?
Wouldn't be the same. We'll find out next week when I'm not here.
It would be Scotch 30 minutes.
You guys will be like way up there. People are like, wow, it's much more
200
highbrow with Brian
views.
gone. I get that chocolatey, that toffee right at the beginning, and then the honey in the mid, and I get a lingering. The aftertaste for me is kind of that like an orange peel, that orange zest at the end. Yeah, that's where I'm getting that note at the end. Mm-hmm.
I definitely get the oak at the end. Maybe even like, when you caramelize sugar,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like that.
Yeah.
Like oak and caramelized sugar.
Last week I stood strong on my banana with the what did we have last week? The Oban 18. This time I'm standing strong on the orange zest at the end. That's definitely what I'm tasting at the end.
So Glenmorangie, interesting fact. Last episode, great as far as full of facts.
Mm-hmm.
The Glenmorangie is known for having giraffe high sills in the Highlands. And part of their proceeds, their profits go to a giraffe preservation and reservation goal to really help this extremely endangered species.
Would you say maybe a citrus cinnamon in there?
I almost get a hint of cinnamon.
You get a lingering spice of cinnamon at the end, at the very end, just as you're kind of done taking a sip. But for me, where I am right now, it's like a chocolate toffee orange. Those like Christmas gifts you get them? They're like those chocolate oranges. That's exactly what this reminds me of, or would kind of go good alongside of it. Very smooth, not a lot of heat.
I'm not sure if for me it's so much a cinnamon as it is that sensation that cinnamon leaves on my tongue.
Yeah, that's what I'm
warmth.
saying.
Yeah.
The warmth at the end, yeah.
Which, again,
Which is different from
Big
heat.
red.
American oak, 15 years, Oloroso cask, a portion of it in there. To your point, brings out that smooth, for me, the creamy flavor. And then I love the long finish. I'm still enjoying it at this moment.
Like I said, for me, the finish is that Oloroso sherry oak with caramelized sugar, and it lingers nice on there.
It does linger. That's a good word for it. It lingers. It doesn't just fade away.
Lingers in a positive way.
Yeah.
Like some things can kind of linger. You're like, ooh.
Like when Heather Locklear lingers, it's like, yeah, this is okay.
The Heather Locklear
She can
from
linger.
T.J. Hooker or the Heather Locklear from Scrubs?
I was thinking like the simple mention of her.
The Heather Locklear from the poster you had in your room as a kid?
That's a good
From
one. That's a good one. What show was she so famous for?
T.J. Hooker.
Is that what it was?
I'm
I don't remember.
sure. She was mostly famous for marrying, I think,
Fun.
Richie Sambora.
Yeah.
When is she in Melrose Place?
I don't even know.
I think you might be right.
You guys watch far more TV and movies.
I think she
than
went
do.
crazy, too. I think she kind of has.
No.
She's had to commit herself a couple of times.
That's just what you do when you're getting off the edge.
Just when you're that hot. Who's saying that? Oh, Aerosmith. That was Aerosmith song, yeah.
I'm enjoying it. Only from memory. And this is great. But from memory, if I had to choose between this and the Oban 18,
I'm going Oban 18.
I'm going Oban as well. And it's not because I don't enjoy this. I think this would pair flawlessly with almost any dessert. Maybe we should pull out some cupcakes. But I do think this would pair flawlessly with almost any dessert. But the Oban, if I'm just drinking straight Scotch, that's the one for me.
I do think Oban's a little bit more smoother straight across the board.
I remember best being we were very excited about the Oban, but remember for dinner we had like one beer, 2 beers, and that was it. So
One beer,
it hit
two
us
beer, 3 beer floor.
beer for dinner, beer for appetizer, Scotch for dinner, Scotch for dessert.
The kids say that Scotch slapped.
Do they say that? I'm going to try and use that on my sons and have them just totally look at me like, what are you trying to say?
You know, if you go to see a movie and it's a hit, just be like, hey, Jesse and Noah said that Black Widow slapped.
All right, I'll let you know how that goes.
Yeah, do. Please do.
In fact, when my boys come to pick me up tonight, I'll run that by them, and we can all just look at their face and see how they react.
They're just going to be like, damn.
God, those guys are cool.
Word. Yeah.
They totally talk like us now.
So
they're going to start using proper English.
Can you give me a Darth Vader cube with a small
got it,
amount?
buddy?
Yeah, just a small amount. See how the cube alters.
Sounds good.
I'm up to like 900, man.
I will
What do
also
you have
take
tonight?
Batting 900.
Oh, yeah, with Darth Vader, you missed the cup once.
Stormtrooper has not had a problem, which
No.
is surprising given their track record on movies
Yeah,
and cartoons and
everything
comics.
else.
They've never hit
Here for
anything.
a cube and a taste.
I would like a cube and a taste, yes. They got beat up by little teddy bears. The Stormtroopers. They actually
Talking about the
lost.
Ewoks.
Yeah. The teddy bears worked over. That's if your army gets beat up by little teddy bears, you need a better army.
If you need a bigger pour, let me know.
I wouldn't really call them teddy bears. I call them more like koala bears.
Okay.
Bigger pour?
Just
a little bit.
small bear
That
is what we're going with. This is definitely, in my recollection, compared to the Oban, sweeter.
It is definitely sweeter.
is poor.
Yes. He's like,
My glass is just as full as yours, if not more. What's the problem?
exactly. Yeah. Jesse's like, allow me to make your argument for you. I have way more than you.
Yeah.
Is that like
I gave
reverse
you an ice
psychology?
cube.
I was supposed to go, no.
Yeah. You're going to have a much smoother night.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, the cube really miles it down, makes it a lot easier.
Does it?
And that goes with
try?
any whiskey,
Yeah, go ahead.
any scotch.
Like now, it's almost like totally quaffable.
Too smooth for me. But damn, that's good. Actually, way too easy going.
Yeah,
I can
you-
drink that easier than
I
a
get
beer.
more oak with it, with the ice cube.
You put that ice cube in, and it's like super quaffable. Like if you don't normally drink scotch, you put that ice cube in there, and you're like,
That might be my problem when I drink scotch at home by myself, and it's not, always the best. I'll throw an ice cube in there or whiskey, and I'm just like, oh, got to go back up to the counter and do another pour and another pour, and then it's midnight.
See, there's the first problem. You're leaving the bottle on the counter. You just take it with you. Then you
Last night, Aaron went to bed at 10:30 or something. And I was still up. No, it was maybe the night before. And I decided to just enjoy my scotch and do my research on the Schmata Challenge that we're going to get into. Schmata Challenge. And I was doing my research, listening to a podcast, and I decided to go out in the little garage and hop up in my boat and just sit in my boat and drink.
I love it. I love it.
I'm in the dark garage
Reminds
in the boat.
me of Lethal Weapon and Danny Glover.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden my phone buzzes and it's Aaron texting me. Where are you?
It's a secret.
Climb down out of the boat and down here in the garage.
No, man, you just invite her and be like, "I'm waiting for you."
No, she knows. I get too much. In fact, when I used to have the boat parked in the big garage, I have a TV in there that's hooked up to cable, so I would go watch TV sitting in my boat in the garage. Just like man card punch after man card punch, all manly things.
Just invite her.
She sat out there and watched a movie with me before. So was Brendan. We pull out chairs and just sit in the garage, leave the garage door open. It's kind of like an outdoor movie theater.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. I mean, of course, we're watching it on like a 20-inch screen or something. It's a pretty tiny TV, but still pretty cool.
Binoculars. We all got binoculars.
So outside in the small garage.
In the small garage at midnight, doing research.
I get it, man. I love it.
Where are you?
I was like... because I was like, who the heck's texting me at 12:30? My wife. I thought she was asleep. Nope. Well, she might have been, but she was waking up wondering where the heck I was.
On a good night, I'll go walk down to a bridge, listen to the water tumbling over the rocks, drink a glass of scotch
at midnight.
Absolutely. Oh yeah. Especially when it's a full moon.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I only get freaked out if I hear any noises. If it's not windy enough. If it's windy enough, all the grass and trees blanket every noise. Yeah, if it's not windy, then you hear every little coyote, fox, or other animal.
And then he hears a werewolf coming after him.
That's next week's Smarter Challenge.
Yeah.
That kind of goes along with
survive a werewolf bite.
I came up with another Smarter Challenge too this week that I want to talk to you about, but I got to wait. Yeah. It's a good one. I think you guys will enjoy it.
You can bring it up in the Patreon portion.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So they know what's upcoming.
Yeah. All right, so anything else we want to wrap up with this before we move into our Smarter Challenge?
As I move this slightly larger pour into this glass, it does, I love the color.
It's a good color.
A great color. Very
oddly enough, the color goes along with the label.
Yeah, it does. You'd think they hired somebody to do a good job with that.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that gold in that label, and then you look at the gold color of the...
Yeah.
It looks pretty close.
I will say one thing I actually like about this, and it's like almost like an ergonomic type of setup, is that when Brian tries to open it, the cork is wider than the neck of the bottle, so you almost can't miss it.
Well, try me.
All right.
I've been known to struggle with a missing cork.
Yeah, but I mean, we have to look at what we had for dinner that night.
Well, we don't have to look long.
I think it was a beer, 2 beers.
2 beers.
That was a basket of chips.
Well, then wait. I thought that was more like appetizer, the beers, and then scotch was dinner, and then scotch was dessert.
I'd almost say, you guys you can call me out on this, but I would almost say us not having dinner almost makes for a better review of the scotches.
I mean, we do actually talk about the scotch.
Yeah. We talked about the scotch this time.
Yeah.
I do say there, just, also keep in mind, is there any of that Oban 18 to compare left?
No. Oh,
exactly.
My goodness.
There you go. So,
do you not remember? No. We got to kill this.
Yeah, no, I remember.
Patron only portion. So,
you're like, well, maybe we should save a little to, compare next time. And I was like, nope.
She's like, you guys are talking silly talk now. This guy, I'm killing this.
Okay, who's killed most of them beforehand? Not me.
I mean, I'm not driving.
I'm not driving.
See?
I'm not driving either.
I don't even have to walk. I can just fall asleep, and I wake up, and I am good to go.
I think I am the only one who still has to work the next day.
That's right.
Dude, poor life choice.
A working man's a sucker.
Man,
that's right.
That's not true. That's not true.
You know what? That's a perfect segue into our Smarter Challenge.
That's
right.
If
Okay.
we're ready. Are we ready to go there?
Yeah, I think, are we?
Absolutely.
All right, time for this week's, or I guess last week's, Smarter Challenges.
Smarter challenge.
Smarter Challenge.
There we go. Yeah, I kind of screwed up mine this week, but whatever.
That's okay. That's all right. All right. So this week, we were tasked with doing a little bit of research on a potential upcoming road trip for the three of us, or plane trip, or some trip. We're going to go to the Mafia Museum in Las Vegas. And with that, we wanted to kind of research the Mafia Museum and kind of research the Mafia, Mafia history. And that's kind of where we were.
Talk about one little piece that drew us in and we wanted to learn a little bit more about.
Oh, for me? Well, I just
That's what I did.
jumped in. I just went with
Every time I leave, they draw me right back in.
we got to work on our
Marlon
Godfather,
Brando,
Marlon Brando. Yeah.
All right.
Darn it.
Your Smarter
Should
challenge.
practice. Well, I
You lead the
started
way.
off.
Do we want him to start off? Since he seems he did like a lot of research on that.
That's all right, man.
I drank a lot of scotch
Okay.
to do the lot of research. But why don't you kind of did a little bit more? Didn't you do more into like diving into like the trip?
I started to, yeah. I mean, I can do the little bit that I have, but yeah, do you want to
Go ahead, do your little bit. Do your little. Let me hear what you
sure?
got.
Just a little bit.
Mine kind of weaves in and out through. I'm almost sure whatever you guys bring up, mine will weave through it. So I'll
Okay.
go last.
All right, so if I remember correctly, you said there were 3 different parts that we could work with. Not
Sure.
that we had to do
Yes.
all 3
That's
different
right.
parts.
That's right. Yeah.
So I began with looking at the museum it's called the Mob Museum in Las Vegas.
That's right. Las
Las
Vegas,
Vegas.
Nevada.
Nevada. I don't know why.
Las Vegas.
It's the Scotch.
It's Las Vegas, Nevada, and it looked like it was a really cool museum there, and it has like 3 different interactive things you can do, and there's 3 different price points. You can do like just a normal all-day pass, but you don't really get to do any of the interactives. Then they have like the medium pass and then the premier pass. The premier pass, which is $49, totally looks like it's worth it because you
Every
get to
penny.
choose.
If we're making the trip, let's do it right.
Yeah, exactly. Because here's the thing: like the interactives, you can choose 2 of the 3. One of the 3 interactives is the crime scene that you can like learn like what they do at crime scenes and how they do all that research there. The other one is a speakeasy where you can like they have distilleries on site. And then, I'm sorry, but this is Scotch Hour, so
Perfect.
I think that has to be automatic.
Yeah, I agree. I saw
And
that too.
and then obviously if you see my hat that I'm wearing this week, which is 2A, I have to go with the other one where it's kind of like it has to do with
Like a shootout.
well, not a shootout, but like it's a firing range, but learning how the police shoot.
Oh, okay.
And they do like it's not actual like live bullets, but I mean, how can you pass up alcohol and shooting, man?
I don't know. The forensic lab sounds very enticing to me, largely because my grandfather was a forensic detective for the New York Police Department.
Oh, that's cool.
And I didn't talk to him enough before he passed, and I really wish I could have heard some of his stories.
Well, you'll get to learn all about it.
I'm
right.
all about like being Yosemite Sam going,
I mean,
and then
I
can
picture
do
myself.
both.
I'm gonna do a little bit more like Keanu Reeves from like Point Break. You know,
I thought you were
Break.
way to go, you dog.
John Wick, bro.
Oh, John. Yeah, just spinning and shooting.
Give me your mag. You
go.
don't need that.
There you go. Yeah, just dropping them out. You know, it reminds me when we went out in Detroit. So there's a segue into what I'm going to talk about. My uncle took me and my mom and him to a trap shooting range. Like with a
Nice.
shotgun, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, they take you through gun safety and they make sure you're good about it. And you're supposed to, you know, pull, you cock the gun, and then you shoot it.
Make sure it's
And then
shouldered.
after you're done, you just like bring it down. And we were all doing it right, but my uncle would always go, and he'd recock it again. And the guy was always like, you can't do that. You need to not reload
Stranger
your weapon.
danger.
You need to not reload your weapon.
is this
Don't do
Uncle-
that.
Was this Uncle Greg?
Uncle Keith.
Uncle
Uncle Keith.
Keith.
So then he'd do it again. Pull. And the guy would be like, didn't I just tell you not to do that? He's like, I know, I'm sorry. And then just every time, it was like habit. He would do it and then do it again. So it was always locked in like chambered
Did
again.
he go like, well, I did grow up and live in Inkster.
That's right. That's right. You had to know how to defend yourself with shotguns and things flying over your head.
Muscle
apparently.
memory.
I guess so. I have no idea. But so I looked into the Mob Museum. And it sounds awesome, you know, and really what drew my attention was the speakeasy and all the history that you can read about. And I guess they've got like Al Capone's gun, you know, and different stuff, different things that you can see, mementos from the history of it. But I, of course, being from Detroit, and you hinted on, you know, Inkster and where I'm from, and I researched I looked up, I just typed in a Google search for Detroit Mafia. And it is amazing the history that Detroit has with the Mafia. So I'll give you guys just a little lesson here. Okay. So starts off, I mean, and I really don't want to go too deep into it because, you know, it could get a little bit boring if you're not from Detroit. But for me, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. So starts back in the 20s, and there's the Gianola family and the Adamo family. They're from Italy. Okay. And there's some of the kind of the bigger crime families that are happening in Detroit at that time.
Alleged.
Allegedly. No, proven, absolutely proven. And, you know, it's just like anything you see in the mafia movies, you know, one family wars against another, and then that family, you know, shoots down, you know, the boss of that family, and then the new family takes over. And the way I read about these guys, when they got shot, they didn't just get, like, shot, like once in the back of the head.
Those are like to the head?
No, it was like 18 to the whole body, like Tommy gun. Like they would just come at you, just rattle you down, and you were just riddled with holes. John Wick style, absolutely. So that might be what we'll learn there. But you know, one of the things that was really cool that I learned about is there's actually another gang there called the Purple Gang. And the Purple Gang was a Jewish gang that actually led like most of the bootlegging at the time. And remember, like this is like, you know, 20s, 30s. This is right around Prohibition. So during the Prohibition, Canada, they're right. You know, Detroit is right across the river, the Detroit River from Windsor. And so what Canada did, they were super smart, is they heard about, because Michigan was actually under Prohibition before the entire United States. They approved Prohibition earlier because like Henry Ford or somebody wanted people in his working in his plants that were sober. He didn't want people drunk, you know, stapling cars together, whatever. Yeah. So then what Canada does, they go, hey, you know what? We're under Prohibition too, but we're going to make it legal to make alcohol and distribute alcohol. You just can't drink it in Canada. So what happened, this is like during Prohibition, this is during the Great Depression, and people are just trying to make a buck. So they would get like rowboats and like row across the Detroit River and buy a bunch of booze, and they'd say like, so where are you taking this? And you'd have to say like, Cuba. They'd go, okay, and they'd give you this booze, and you'd bring it back, and that became kind of, people were just doing it to try and make a buck, and then it started getting more organized, and that's where the organized crime came in. And in fact, they kind of admitted that was like where organized crime came from, was the idea of Prohibition that like really backfired on the U.S. and created way more crime than they would have had otherwise. So like, and I don't know if you know, like the Detroit River has like massive undercurrents. Like it is super dangerous. You don't jump in there. I mean, these giant, like huge boats, like huge boats are what float through there. And so then people would wait until it froze over. So the Detroit River would freeze over, and they would actually take cars and like take the doors off them and make them as lightweight as possible and drive over there. And even when the ice would break up, they would try and drive from like floating iceberg to floating iceberg to bring back like liquor. So that kind of goes into a movie that it made me think of. And it was the one of my favorite all-time kind of gangster mafia movies is A Bronx Tale.
All right.
And in The Bronx Tale, one of the quotes is, the guy says, that the head gangster says, the working man's a sucker, which you talked about earlier. And that leads me into the next part of the Detroit organized crime, which was Jimmy Hoffa and the Teamsters Union. Now, this was not organized crime. And you've heard about Hoffa and how he disappeared and his connection with the mob and all that. And as it turned out, he was born poor and was working for like Kroger, which is what my mom worked for. The company's still around today. And he noticed that the working man was kind of a sucker. They were just at the mercy of the big owner. And he actually he created the unions, all with the idea that he was promoting just, not trying to get power, just the working man needs to be able to have their voice heard. And he actually first went on strike against Kroger grocery chain. So then the crime bosses from Michigan are doing their thing. The Teamsters Union's doing their thing. And they kind of end up sort of like the Teamsters Union would hire the mob to crack skulls for like scabs that would cross the picket line. And the owners of the businesses would hire the mob to crack skulls on the Teamsters. So they were like, the mob was just infiltrated everywhere. And they were basically, hitmen for hire. But what turns out is, I guess that the Detroit Mafia had close ties with the Gambino family, which is one of the big, like 5 families from New York or something. And I don't know, Bugsy Siegel was the guy who had the vision for Las Vegas, right?
That's interesting because I'll talk all about that.
Yeah, I think, yeah. So the vision, as I understand it, for Las Vegas came from Bugsy Siegel. But the money and all the workers and all the materials that built Las Vegas and all the money that funded it was from the Teamsters, the pension fund for the union. So that's kind of where those ties came in, is they used that money. And it turned out to be great because it actually, paid them back double and triple what they invested. So it was actually a really good investment by the union. So it's not necessarily a dirty thing or a crime-ridden thing. But then at some point in time, the Detroit Mafia and Jimmy Hoffa did not see eye to eye. And there's the guy who they think killed him was, his name is Anthony Giacalone. And he was like one of not the head of the crime family. And they actually changed it to the Detroit Partnership at that time. And there's all sorts of, everybody tries to claim who killed him. And in fact, you guys have also probably heard of the movie Kill the Irishman, Frank Sheehan. He actually took credit for the murder also. So many people, but nobody really knows. I mean, they're pretty sure that whoever did it is probably also dead, or they were so good. Oh, and this was something really cool and interesting about the Detroit family, because the Detroit Mafia is still present today, and it's still actually a crime family, but they've got like legitimate businesses, because one of the things they did is they're one of the families that are known to never have had a turncoat, like never had a snitch, like bailover. They were very close and they were very tight, and they all lived in like the same two radius block in a city called Grosse Pointe. And they actually, a lot of the younger family members went to college, like Notre Dame, became lawyers, and got educated. So this was a very educated crime family, and thus they're kind of still around today. And Jimmy Hoffa isn't, and that's the big mystery about where he ended up. But it was really fun to listen to these podcasts, because when I go back to Detroit, which I'm going back next week, I get teased about my Colorado accent. But listen to these guys talk. I mean, they sound, you can just tell there's this Detroit cadence that it's very similar to Chicago, but it's not quite Chicago. And every once in a while, Aaron will like mention that I'll say things are a certain way. Not so much.
I do pick it up from your mom more than I do from you, but every once in a while you can hear it.
Yeah, there's a certain cadence and just certain, it's not twang because it's not Southern. But what else did I want to talk about? I think I kind of hit everything on my research, and I got into it. Like I said, I was sitting in my boat in a garage, listening to podcasts and jotting stuff down.
Well, do you want me to go?
Yeah.
And you can finish up with Bugsy.
Go with
Absolutely.
Bugsy. I want to hear about Bugsy.
Yeah. So, anyways, I was going to talk a little bit about Lucky Luciano because of with Lucky Luciano, I mentioned something last week about how the mafia helped out the U.S. government with World War II, and you seemed like a little bit surprised by that.
No, not surprised now that I've done a little bit more research. It's amazing how their hands were into so many things.
Exactly. So we have Lucky Luciano. He's the one who brought together the commission, or brought the 5 families together with the help of Rothstein, Lansky, and Frank Costello. And Lucky Luciano, I forget what his real name was, but anyways, he was born in Sicily, was recruited by Massera, I think is his last name, or something like that, who was, I think he was like a hitman or something like that, but that's how he got into the 5 Points gang, and that's where he started working with Rothstein, Lansky, and Costello, because they found a way of how they can start utilizing, bringing in like the liquor and stuff like that, right?
Bootlegging the liquor.
Yeah, bootlegging. So, and then when he brought together the 5 families, because he saw it as like he had the bigger vision of how they could work together, instead of having the 5 families always warring against each other, which one of the families is the Gambino family.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of him being called like the bosses of all bosses, he became like the chairman of the board. So they had like a board, right, of commissions that came together, as we all kind of know. And you can watch like almost any mafia movie that has Lucky Luciano in there, and it'll go over all that stuff. But in any case, after Lucky kind of handed over the reins to Frank Costello, he still helped out the U.S. Navy and the U.S. government because they were worried during World War II with spies coming over from Italy, and they were also worried about the people that work on the
factory workers.
No, not the factory workers, but the ones that work on the shipments that come in.
Docks,
the dock workers.
Yeah.
So they were worried about those people going on strike. So so the U.S. government used the mafia to keep them from going on strike. And when they're getting ready to invade Sicily, they used the mafia to kind of like give them like detailed information about the coastline of Sicily and landmarks on there, so they knew where to go and what to hit when they arrived there at Sicily.
But you mentioned, I mean, that's the very thing that's why Hoffa had to go.
Yeah.
Because the Teamsters Union was so strong that they would, drop your boxes, walk off the dock, and they would fall in line because the union was so powerful. And that's where the mob would come in, and whoever's paying the most or whoever they had the most to gain from, that's the side they were on. And that's why Hoffa's not around anymore.
And if there's another, there's a TV, or it's on YouTube, but it's called something like JFK to 9/11, a rich man's game. And this YouTube video talks about like how once the U.S. government got involved with the mafia, they have always been involved with the mafia from that point forward, and how the mafia was actually used to assassinate JFK. And the person in this particular video, and this is like the best one I've ever seen about the assassination of JFK, said it was Woody Harrelson's dad that shot him from underneath the in the sewers.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I actually, in my research, and I had heard that the big beef with the whole Kennedys was, John F. Kennedy and Robert Kennedy, they came from a wealthy family. Exactly.
Kennedys were all down.
Like it was a lot of kind of just, almost they bought their way into politics and bought the election, and they were the rich men.
JFK and Robert Kennedy wanted to get rid of the mafia and all the, if you will, the deep state people that are controlling our government.
And they wanted to get rid of the union.
Yeah.
Like Hoffa and
all of them. They wanted to clear it out.
They did, yeah, because what I heard is Hoffa, the union
they also wanted to go back onto the gold standard and silver standard and get rid of the paper fiat.
Well, because they were kind of the present day, Democrats, the far left, Robert Kennedy, and he came from such wealth that he felt that it was his job to inherently try and lift up the poor people and lift them up, and he felt like the Teamsters Union was actually hurting that and not helping it. So like Hoffa was brought in under Senate questioning, and he and Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, did not see eye to eye. And some of the conspiracy theorists that were brought up through my podcast was that the Teamsters somehow supplied the guns or somehow supplied information, somehow were involved with the JFK assassination.
Anyways, I would say definitely if you have the opportunity to watch this YouTube channel, I'm not the channel, but the name of the title, but it's called JFK to 9/11, a rich man's game. Search for it. It's really hard to find because YouTube's been trying to censor it and stuff like that. But if you can find it, it's about like 3 to 4 hours long. It is the best, theory that I've seen yet on who murdered JFK.
Cool.
Anyways, this I think brings us back to you with Siegel, with
Bugsy Siegel. All right, so you guys know, everyone's heard of Bugsy Siegel, and really he hated the name, right? That's his nickname. Most people call him that today. He hated it back in the day. He was Benjamin Siegel. That's what he preferred to go by. And he used to tell people, you call me Bugsy to my face and I will end you. Not in those words. But born Brooklyn, New York, 1906. Assassinated Beverly Hills, California, 1942. Not a long life to live, right? But he did do some very interesting things. So in that time, as a teenager, he got involved with the mob. Sounds like most of these guys did. So right around that early 1900s, right in the 1900 to 1910 period, these guys are all either coming to America, their families came to America. Bugsy's family came to America, I believe, 1903. He's born 1906. 13 years later, he's running the streets, and he's like, hey, I'm tired of being a fool. I'm tired of being a working man. Like these people are killing themselves. I want to do more. I don't want to be making pennies on the hour. So he gets involved with a group, gets into a little bit of trouble. The guy was never convicted of a serious crime, by the way. That's one of the interesting facts of him. He most likely did a lot of these things, was convicted of nothing but petty crimes. But with that, the mistake a lot of people make is that he invented Las Vegas, and he did not. And you kind of cued into that. He didn't so much invent Las Vegas. He didn't come up with that. When he went into Las Vegas to build the Flamingo Hotel, there were already hotels and casinos there. However, they were minuscule in comparison. So with his millions that he kept asking from Hoffa and the mob, the Teamsters, with these millions of dollars. Back then, $1 million meant something, by the way. Right now, that's probably $1 billion easily. Back in the 30s and 40s, $1 million meant you were truly rich. Right now, you can have $1 million and be broke in 2 years. You can, if you're lucky with $1 million, if you won $1 million in the lotto and you paid your taxes, you might actually be able to buy a house in Colorado, but I'm not sure about that right now.
$1 million might get you a house.
Might get you a house. But back then, a whole different story. So he goes to Las Vegas. He starts borrowing money. He creates the Flamingo Hotel. But with that, also created some drama, borrowed a lot of money, became a risk. But the guy also, and this is one of the things that drew me to him for the podcast was, thank you, Noah, was really this piece where it's rumored that he wanted to be a movie star. He wanted to do something more. He wanted to be legit. And so many of these, and you mentioned the long-standing families, went legitimate. And long-term, I believe the reason he was killed in 1942 in his home in Beverly Hills, California, was because he wanted to go legit. He wanted to be a movie star. He wanted to do something more. He hung out with the likes of Frank Sinatra, Cary Grant, Jean Harlow, all huge movie stars. Yeah.
All right, which mobsters didn't hang out with
Sinatra?
Yeah.
So, but with that, you got to, for me, I really appreciate this piece where you don't necessarily have to create and dream up the idea. You can go in and just do something better. And that's what he did for Vegas. He turned this around from a desert with a hotel and a little bit of gambling. Some people going in, nothing exciting, compared to what it is today for me. It's not even about the gambling for me. It's about the food, man. World-class food in Las Vegas. The shopping, the things you can get, the museums now. All of these things you can do there and have an experience and have a vacation. Go swimming in pools that are lazy rivers with beaches. And
they even have topless pools there.
Yeah, well,
I'll go topless. I got no problem with that.
I might have a problem with that. I don't know if I'm ready yet, Brian.
I'm not pool ready. But
Yeah, I'm not either.
No,
In fact, I tried to sit outside with my shirt off the other day, and Brendan's like, "No, Dad, I got friends coming over. Put your shirt on."
But you got to think back to Las Vegas, which is what is bringing us to the Mob Museum. They made a world larger than life that is affordable for almost anyone. Not everyone's going to go stand at the Bellagio or the Wynn or the area. Some of them may be staying far away.
We stayed at the La Quinta.
Or the Luxor or Treasure Island is very affordable and actually in a great position on the Strip.
even the Flamingo is actually pretty cheap nowadays.
It is cheap and it
Comparative
is
to
so
the other ones.
outdated.
Yeah.
But back then, again, it's a piece of history. And maybe maybe we go out of our way to stay there one of the nights, if not longer, just for that piece of history. Then maybe we stay another night in one of the high-end ones and really do the comparison.
Actually, I've always liked staying over at the MGM Grand.
Have you?
Yeah, because they
got a great pool.
They do, because they have like that lazy river with the bar off to the side. Yeah.
I don't mind the MGM Grand.
The most expensive words I ever learned there at MGM Grand is charge it to the room.
Oh, never. Kids, cover your ears. This is just nachos.
That I've learned that lesson. Do not charge it to the room.
Did you have a pretty hefty bill?
At the end of it, yes.
I see you're walking. They didn't break your kneecaps or anything.
You know what? He never told us the whole story about what happened to his leg in Vegas. I'm just kidding, man.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
I don't think there was a story about my leg in Vegas.
I mean,
his
you
leg's
might
been
have
gone
twisted
since second
it.
grade.
I do have a story from Vegas where
I know.
I was kicked out of Studio 54 3 times in one night, but
I don't doubt that at all. I saw you get kicked out of bars on Pearl Street, on the Hill, all over Boulder. Not just kicked out, but not even allowed in. You're like, no, he's not coming in.
So yeah, I was, but this 3 times in one night. So
That's I guess something to be proud of, sort of.
yeah, sort of. I'm not sure.
Well, we did take my boys are very excited when they get to turn 21. Dylan especially wants to do the Vegas with Noah. He's very excited that you're going to show him out on the town. And we actually took them there. And we stayed at the La Quinta, which is just slightly off the strip because we had our pop-up camper at that time. And we were taking them out to California. And they must have been maybe 10, 11 years old, 12 years old. And we're walking up and down the strip, and all those little cards that they hang out with the nudie, they hand out with the nudie. Yeah, they're like, here you go.
They don't do that anymore.
Oh, they don't. When they were littered all over the ground, and my boys' eyes were like just popping out of their heads. And then you'd see, the weirdest people walking around, showgirls with like G-strings on, right outside,
they still do that.
walking. Yeah, and yeah, they were just they were in shock.
So
just keep
funny
walking,
story with
boys.
one of those.
Yeah.
Those things.
Did you hand some of those out?
No, I did not. Okay. But one of my fraternity brothers
Called it.
what? One of my fraternity brothers, it was his bachelor party. And he wanted an Irish woman, a redhead, and an Asian woman. And
So you were out on the hunt?
So we had actually a lineup.
How did we go here?
I don't know. All right, the Vegas stories for another day. This is
Okay.
This is PG-16ish, and
Am I
I
still
think
going to
I
rated R?
think you're going.
just went
I think you're going triple X.
PG-21.
Yeah,
I haven't quite gotten there.
yeah,
yet.
you were going there though. We need to stop you.
Jesus. All right, so we're
All right.
talking
Reel him
about
back in
Bugsy.
before it's
We're
too
talking
late.
about Bugsy. So
How did he die?
okay, so he was killed in his home in Beverly Hills, 1942.
Mob hit.
Oh, so here's what's interesting. But let me go through just a few
Okay.
facts, and then
I jumped a little bit.
We'll jump to his end. But hated his nickname, so he got his nickname Bugsy because his friends all thought when he got angry, he was crazy as a bed bug. Now, I've never seen a bed bug, let alone seen one get angry, but apparently they're nasty.
I
So
would not
now
like
I'm
it.
afraid of them. Now I'm
Yeah.
afraid of bed bugs.
Well, that's not a very tough nickname.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get. Here comes the bed
Right.
bug. And be
He's
like,
linked, as you know about Lucky, Luciano, and others, linked to several high-profile murders and assassinations. He was part of this group, although he himself was never convicted of any of these crimes. But one of the true stories that they do know, because he actually spoke about it, one time somebody tried to kill him. The assassination attempts on his life were more than once. And one time somebody dropped a bomb down his chimney. Now, he survived this, and he knew who did it, so he checked himself into a hospital and then snuck out the window, went and killed the guy, snuck back into the hospital so he had an alibi, and checked out clean. That guy was ahead of his time, man. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it is. That is pretty good.
So a couple other little things here. We talked about he's a friend of many movie stars. He led a search for buried treasure in Costa Rica. Now, it was later believed that he was actually either running drugs or guns because his ship had to be towed in. But, that should be one of our
That's
trips.
a pretty weak
we need
alibi.
To go search for treasure someday,
That's
right?
a pretty weak alibi. He wasn't the mastermind that we make him out to be. If that's the only thing he can come up with. I'm treasure hunting officer. Okay.
I mean, he tried to sell an explosive atomite to Mussolini in Rome. So, again, the guy is dealing with the top end here, right? He did not invent Las Vegas, but his murder was never solved. And there are many people that believe there's a number of people that could possibly be the reason he was killed, a number of reasons. But at the end of the day, he knew a lot of secrets. The strongest belief is that he was actually skimming off the money from the Teamsters when he was building the Flamingo, and that's why he was hit. So that's the number one reason that people believe he was killed is he was never steal from the big guys, just saying. He was stealing from the Teamsters and the mob.
Yeah, that's funny you mentioned about, alibis and Bugsy with his alibi and things. That was the with the Teamster and the Hoffa hit is that's why they're quite certain that this guy, what is it, his name, Tony Giacalone, was the guy. He was one. He was Tony Giacalone, and the whole crew is like the Toco crew. It almost looks like Taco. That's like the leader. But this Giacalone guy was known to be like this physically imposing, quiet man who almost said nothing. It would just be one of those where he'd just kind of nod his head, and that meant you're okay, or nod it this way, and that meant you're like going to get shot. Didn't speak at all. But the day of Hoffa's disappearance, he had like 30 people as an alibi at the South Shore gym club or something. And he walked around and he shook everybody's hand, asked how they're doing, and said, "Hey, what time is it?" Because he wanted everybody to know what time it was that they spoke to him on that day so that he couldn't be tied into it. And that was his alibi. Yep. And they were like, which made no sense because this man never talked to anybody. He didn't speak. And yet on this one particular day that Hoffa disappears, he's suddenly Mr. Friendly with everybody.
Now, he was tied to the Irish mob too, right?
Well, the Irishman was a Teamster, like kind of head in the union. But I don't know, not Giacalone, but yeah, the Irishman, he kind of was a hitman, a union rep, kind of. Have you ever seen the movie Killing the Irishman?
No.
You should check it out. It's
I've heard it's amazing.
I've seen like both of them. There's one with Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci, the usual crew for.
Didn't they try to kill this guy like a dozen times until it worked? Okay, so I've seen actually a documentary on it.
Yeah. And apparently he like tried to claim, he like was really like saying, trying to claim, hey, I killed Hoffa. Because he was trying to write a book, and who's going to get more money, the guy that writes a book about killing Hoffa, or just some dude, the Irishman, who doesn't get killed when they try to bomb him. But every time he would try to claim some story, everybody would be like, "That it doesn't make sense. That makes no sense." And he kept getting shot down. But he's like, "I did it," and no one would accept that he did it. But that's another good movie. Kill the Irishman. Check that out. We got Bronx Tale. You got to check that out. And I just started watching just a little bit today, but when I get home tomorrow, I'm going to be kind of busy. But I want to watch the movie Hoffa with Jack Nicholson in it. Because it's amazing. I had no idea just by typing in a Google search for Detroit Mafia. I mean, when you think of Mafia, have you ever even thought of Detroit? You think
not
Italy,
really, but
Chicago. You think
but you
New
think
York.
with how close Chicago is to Detroit, it makes sense. But I never thought about it.
Yeah, me either. But it's pretty strong ties, and especially it makes sense. I mean, when you mention the name Hoffa, everybody knows Hoffa.
One guy we didn't really mention, but I'm going to just do a quick mention is Al Capone, because
Philly.
Yeah, because of Philly, right? Like if you go to Eastern Penitentiary and you see like his cell. That guy had it hooked
hotel.
up. Yeah, definitely. But in any case, we're right up at 52 minutes right here. So,
oh wow,
let's go ahead and next week's Smarter Challenge will be Tartaria.
Tartaria.
Yes. So this is a.
You're the giver of the Smarter Challenge.
Yes, I am the giver of the Smarter Challenge. So
Tartaria.
we are going into the tinfoil hat realm, and we're going to learn about Tartaria.
Are you going to give us any more insight into Tartaria, or just leave it?
I'm just going to leave it with Tartaria, and let you guys do your research on Tartaria, and then we can discuss that.
Awesome. All right.
Well, you won't discuss it, but we will.
No, you guys. No, you got to put this off. You guys can. You already. Your next week's Smarter Challenge is just to talk about your trip, probably. No.
I mean, you want to be part of the Tartaria?
Do I want to be? Is it gonna, do I want to be? Yeah, I love learning about interesting things.
Okay,
and,
so we'll do a
conspiracies.
Tartaria one for us three.
Okay.
And then just for Jesse and I, we'll just do a physical Smarter Challenge.
Oh, snap.
Which should be easy for both of us. We'll just say go to the gym 3 times.
I think we got to do something better than that.
Okay, what?
You need to do something cardio.
He usually does cardio. I usually lift.
Physical.
All right, or we could do a mental one.
I think we got to do, based on the other topics we'll talk about, something about either the history of Area 51.
All right. So how about this? Since we are going to be talking about Roswell, let's do Project Blue Book.
Okay, Project Blue Book.
Project Blue Book.
That went down the
So
wrong way.
Tartaria will be 2 episodes from now, episode 21. For episode 20, Project Blue Book. And I want to, I do want to touch, so if you want to look up any numbers for this, I think we can just talk about it based on the conversations we had while we were there on the economy and some of the different things that have happened in Roswell in that area and ultimately all of the United States.
Yeah, so we can probably do like a subject of Roswell, the economy, and Project Blue Book, because those will all tie together. Yeah.
Perfect.
Well, the economy really won't. It will just because we went there.
That made a noise.
Yeah, man, that's what I was looking for at the beginning.
Okay, so with that, we are at the start of close. So, Jesse, I believe you do our starting of the closes, right? Is it
Absolutely. Sure.
All right. Well,
as he continues his
Jesse
board?
doesn't need to wake up tomorrow.
No.
I don't.
At all.
I really don't.
I really don't either, but I do still have to.
Please,
little
I'll
bit
be
of
the
work done.
first one up. Last time I was up at 6 a.m. running around. Like, it was crazy. I did the dishes. I did laundry. I was mowing the lawn. I felt bad. I'm like, I'm probably waking up. No. It was a whole different story. But the pizza was not great at all.
No, the pizza is horrible.
So, the one thing I want to say is,
The post-production pizza.
oh my God.
It's terrible. Don't ever get pizza from 7-Eleven.
Or at least don't try to make it at home.
Who would have thought? I mean, you usually think you're going to get quality, food at
I
a
think
7-Eleven.
if you buy it there, they have a special oven, because I've bought a single piece there on a bike ride, and I'm like, man, this isn't bad. I should try this. And then we tried it, and I'm like,
nasty.
this is the worst cardboard ever. Like, who soaked this for 3 days? So, but no, the one I want to kind of wrap up with is 2 things. One, adventure. I think that's very important to me as we continue. Next week, we will be talking about our trip to Roswell, some of the things we learned, some of the things we experienced, some of the things that emotionally impact me is a big deal, and really looking at the economy and thinking about things that have happened to all states. But living this one firsthand and seeing that being personally impacted always makes a change. And then more importantly with that one, my kids went on us with this trip. So it wasn't just me being impacted. It was the fact that their experience was reduced when, things like you can't hire a person for a donut shop to get there because
On time.
And part of that's though because they're working them so hard. If you look at the labor statistics right now, the people at these shops, some of them were working 10, 12-hour days, going and sleeping in their cars for 3 hours, working another 10, 12 hours, and then they might be lucky if they have a day off. But they're being worked to the bone, and who doesn't want the money? We all want the money. Money's great.
But you're making more from unemployment than you are for having these jobs. That's one of the issues.
That
think.
is
But you'll dive into
depending
that.
on the state.
Yeah.
And the states will vary with that. But with a big piece of that, it's really the personal impact on people. We talked with people who had lost shops, who were impacted in so many ways, government shutdowns that were mandated.
Save it for the podcast.
Yeah, there was a lot that happened. So that was a big one. But the other one is just really looking to this future adventure and the mafia and the mob. And anyone who denies that is a huge piece of American history and what has really impacted our politics is a fool. It absolutely impacted them in so many ways. It is so exciting to really look at that piece of history. And also, these guys were all entrepreneurs. So there's so many ways, today we often celebrate entrepreneurs, but we look back and we're like, you don't want to be like Lucky Luciano. Oh, well, maybe you do. Just, it's an interesting look at it, especially if you're part of a family who goes to school, sends their kids to school, and is still longstanding and running today. So I loved your Smarter Challenge, Brian. I appreciated it. It reminded me of when Noah and I were in high school and went and saw Bugsy with Warren Beatty in the theater. It was a good time.
Good times.
And it was a wonderful Smarter Challenge for me, particularly because I love Vegas and I love history, and it was a great reminder of so many things. And Prohibition, obviously, at some point we got to talk about Prohibition during Scotch Hour, another big piece. So I'm looking forward to that. After we make our trip to Vegas.
that your wrap up?
That's my wrap up.
Yeah, I enjoyed the Smarter Challenge also. I didn't know how in depth, but it's like you get hooked because one thing leads to another thing leads to another thing, and now I know that when we do go to the Mafia Museum, I'll be so much more interested to literally every exhibit. I'll be reading every placard, going through it. It won't just be like, oh, okay, that's a gun. Oh, there's a Tommy gun. There's a car. Yeah, I'm really going to be trying to understand this because as we've all talked about it, there's so many layers. So it was really interesting to me, and it would be something that I would not have done had we not talked about the Mafia Museum. I would never have researched it that deeply. My knowledge went about as deep as, Goodfellas and A Bronx Tale and Casino. Which are, fairly, they're kind of semi-accurate, but I'll be interested to hear how accurate are they when we actually go read the true history. So I enjoyed talking about it too. I wish I'd, done a little bit better justice with my storytelling about the Detroit Mafia, but you did a great job with the Bugsy. And every time I think of Bugsy, I think of Warren Beatty. Yeah, and kind of like when I think of Hoffa, I do think of Jack Nicholson a little bit because he was the predominant role in that. So, but I enjoyed it. Noah? How about you?
Yeah, so first of all, thanks for another great Smarter Challenge. I'm a little bit bummed at myself because I do like American, the Italian Mafia and learning about all that stuff. And I didn't really take a whole lot of time to dive into it because I did get sidetracked on our on our road trip to Roswell, and I dived into getting a book on the stuff that happened with Roswell or what led up to it and everything that transpired after it. And then, so that way when I went to the museum, I was more familiar with some of the stuff there. And then after that, I started diving into a TV series that's on the History Channel called Project Blue Book, which I already knew some stuff from Project Blue Book anyways. But the TV series is actually really cool. And so actually, I got more sidetracked with the aliens than I did with the mafia in America. So I didn't quite do as well as I would have hoped for the Smarter Challenge this week. So I was a little bit bummed I didn't really put in the homework that I should have. But any case, it was a great Smarter Challenge. I get a C+.
C+, I think, yeah. Good job. Yeah. So still did a really nice job, I think. Plus, there's no doubt we're going to be circling back to this once we do our trips.
Exactly. That's what I was going to emphasize.
And so with that, I just want to say for those of you who are not patron members, and for the patron members, but thank you everybody who watches us on YouTube and Rumble, and for everybody that listens to us on Podbean, Spotify, Audible, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts if you're outside of the United States. We do appreciate your guys' support. If you can leave us any comments, leave any suggestions about topics that you want us to talk about, we'll be more than happy to talk about that and use that for a Smarter Challenge. If you put in a request for a type of scotch, we will definitely try that scotch as long as it's within reason, I guess. No $1,000 scotches or anything like that. Not yet anyways.
Not yet.
And we definitely would have you or would like to include you into our podcast if that were to occur, if you guys did make a request like that. And lastly, I would just say that for those who are patrons, we will have a bonus feature here after we're done with this particular one, and just say thank you, everyone, and cheers and good night.
Cheers.
Cheers, gentlemen.
We hope you enjoyed this evening's episode of Scotch Hour. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. Also, if you have not done so already, please become a patron member, with memberships starting as low as $1 a month. Thank you, and hopefully you have a wonderful evening.